This is the Business Stuff Podcast. This is where I will share the lessons I've learned from advising thousands of businesses over almost 30 years. Each episode will give you practical insight to allow you to learn from other people's mistakes. I'll be pulling in experts from our team and the world of business, and together we'll make sure your business is giving you what you want. My name is Martin, and this is the Business Stuff Podcast. Hi, it's Marty from the Accelerator team. I'm here with Jack, also of the Accelerator team. Jack, today we're going to answer the question once for all. Will AI steal my job?
Yes.
Right.
It will.
That is...
Right, shall we wrap this up?
Probably the quickest episode we've had. It's probably, it depends, isn't it?
It's very topical right now.
Yeah. So we thought we'd give a couple of different angles on it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'm much smarter people that also are giving their own views on it. But these are our views. Mm-hmm. And we want to hear them, even if
we want to shout them out into the echo chamber.
No, to be fair though, you had some stats that we're talking about. I was talking about this with family yesterday, and we came up with an interesting kind of analogy. You know, prior to the loom, people thought the loom would take all of their jobs. It didn't. There are still people hand making clothes today. Yeah. Admittedly, not the same numbers. I get that. But there are lots of examples along these lines, and as someone who grew up pre-internet, but then was still early enough to adopt.
I was to say you were part of the loom.
I grew up
the loom generation.
Pre the loom, yes. I was a Luddite. So, pre-internet really, so, my first real experience of the internet, I was probably 18, 19, 20, in the mid-90s, and, Encyclopedia Britannica, I was like, well, why would anyone ever want an encyclopedia anymore? Mm-hmm. Surely everyone's going to be a genius now because you can look up anything.
Yeah.
But everyone isn't a genius. So we've had, 20 or 30 years of easy to access, wide scale internet with staggering amounts of data. But yet we still need people to teach other people things and to do things. It hasn't eliminated teaching, has it?
No, it hasn't.
So, I think that's a similar way of putting it to me.
Yeah, I mean, let's put some context to it. So, the stats you were talking to us about in terms of emerging technology, and the first point is that everyone obsesses with AI, but AI actually is a very small fraction of what we consider an emerging trends.
Yeah.
It is one of hundreds of potential phenomenons that are going to shape the future of the world.
Because AI suggests something smart and intelligent, but automation has arguably got rid of more jobs than AI.
Yeah.
The loom was an automated or a much easier way, semi-automated or whatever. That's got nothing to do with AI. It was just automation of a procedure.
So yeah, that's the first point, and the stat I was talking about is very much of the case that emerging trends, things like AI, are going to eliminate $50 trillion from kind of global GDP, and again, that's a big number to focus on, and that's generally kind of what the media focus on, because their angle seems to be AI is going to do
jobs is that? Yeah.
AI is going to do two things. And we're not sure which order it's going to do. It's either going to take your job or it's going to kill you, or both.
Yeah.
And it's which order we don't know, but that's definitely going to happen. So although it's going to eliminate 50 trillions worth of GDP globally, it's going to add 210 trillion to global GDP.
So that might seem counterintuitive to people. So can we come up with a simple example on that? And I'll give you what my take on that is then, because I wasn't privy to where that came from. So. My initial thought there is my son likes programming. He can now program things much more quickly and easily to the point where very quickly he's now putting apps on his own phone. And I suppose what it's done is it's eliminated a small part of that programming process.
Yeah.
So if that's all you do, your job is now gone, or that element is now gone. But the fact that he's able to do much more, he is more productive, even if part of it no longer needs to be done. Is that a reasonable?
Yeah, I would say.
Is that what it means?
The opportunity then is kind of like, well, the thing that I did that used to take me half a day to do or a day to do now takes 30 seconds. The mindset we should be adopting surely is then, well, I've actually just saved myself.
What can we do in all of that time we've just saved?
What else can I offer my clients then?
So I think email did this, you see. So, we have a tax department here that produces a couple of thousand tax returns every year. We used to print them out, which back in the day, prior to, fast laser printers, would sometimes take 5-10 minutes to print the form. You'd have to stick it to a letter that you dictated, it got typed, and all of that took forever. Now, when it's ready to go, you hit send, it goes over the portal, and it can sometimes come back quicker than they've even put the file away, which you don't even have anymore because the file's electronic. But we've taken days out of that simple process of getting a signature on the document. We're not sitting twiddling our thumbs wondering what to do. We can just do more returns, or we can do them quicker, or we focus on other parts of the job that we didn't used to have the time to. It hasn't removed that as a job. And surely this is the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it gives you an opportunity to expand what you do. You can either do more of it, or you can look at areas where you can value add. Because AI is still very limited in what it can do. Don't get me wrong, it's massively intelligent, but it's still very limited. And
I saw a great little meme over the weekend of AI shaking its own hand to I don't know, here's the keys to the world kind of thing. Shit, and there were clearly AI generated pictures of handshakes. There was 42 fingers in them. There was 3 arms. It was like, well, it's not going to kill me yet.
No,
it might go very fast, but it's not even it's not even good enough to create an image of 2 hands shaking yet with the wrong prompt.
So I mean, it's again, I think there's an element of mindset here that we can focus on the doom and gloom and it's going to kill us and it's going to steal our jobs, but also why aren't we leveraging it as an opportunity? Suddenly we can use this technology that we've got to, upskill people faster, increase productivity and add more value in that sense. We can boost skills by up to 30% by using stuff that's currently already out there.
It's interesting because what part of our discussion yesterday is, will there even be authors in the future? Because and if people haven't tried this, you have to try it, because if you're not at least trying it, then you'll have no idea, and then you will be one of the jobs that misses. Because if you're not taking advantage of this to get that extra 30% productivity, you will be unproductive, and that is how to almost self-elect to lose your own job, isn't it? But we were talking about whether it's even worth having authors, because you can say now, give me a short story in the style of Shakespeare, Jimmy Nail, pick your personality.
The 2 big uns, the titans.
I mean, a lot of people go to Dickens, but I'm much more of a Nail, the Nail-Ensian area. But so you can do, the fact you can do that, a lot of people think, well, why would you bother even trying to write a book now? But you can only write in the style of someone who's already created that style. We can create art automatically now, but there'll always be a need for someone to drive the direction of the art. Because AI is only an accumulation of things that already exist often, isn't it? It can create new things, I get that, but it's not going to create a new character in a book that only you've thought of. It can create characters in books and write them, but I think there'll always be that space for that spark.
There's the value of
it'll get you to write the book quicker, because it'll throw loads of ideas and go, I'll have that one, and then you'll go away and work it.
Yeah, and I suppose even a more simplistic view of that is that, yes, it will write you a book, a short story, it'll write you content, marketing materials, etc. It doesn't mean that it's perfect though. So the role of an author may move from actually writing it, but there's still the value in writing it. I agree that, the original thought. But the role of the author may even tweak to becoming more of an editor. Because, all right, you've given me the bones of an idea, potential areas of but I want to affect the plot this way,
Well, and I might have the wrong use of the word here, but almost a curator. So it will create a bunch of stories, but you're the one who's going to curate the bits that make it into your bit, aren't you? Which is kind of the same as what you're saying about the editing. You said earlier on though, Jack, and there's 2 things here which give me hope that we don't need to worry too much about it. And I've already touched on one, but it's what you call the counter revolution. The fact that I said people still hand make clothes today. Well, that's not because they haven't heard of looms.
yeah, the value, I still think there's value in human time more than anything. Like again, like we cracked the code for mass production of food and bread, for example, but there's still artisan bakers out there.
Yeah.
And it's again because people value the time and effort that goes into it.
Yeah.
And you know, they don't mind spending 20 quid on a piece of sourdough.
Is there an element there as well, that artisan bun loaf it's not bland? Because you could get a machine to then reproduce that, but you don't. That's not what you're buying. You want the odd shaped bun that is, it's good this week. It's like, you know.
Yeah.
You need a bit of variety, don't you? Even in the thing you do often.
I think people almost are attracted to the human aspect of it. The fact that it's irregular. It's not repeatable. It's not, you know, robotic in its systems. And it's the whole experience as well, which. Isn't it really nice when you can go to a bakery and you know that that's been made in the kitchen? Yeah.
You can smell that something's in the oven.
You've spoken to the person behind the counter, the person who made it.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, things. The best example we can probably provide of like that artisan fusing with technology is like the rise of Etsy and not on the market and stuff, like not on the high street. Sorry, where it's kind of merged these two worlds together of technology and, you know, artisan making and manufacturing.
To be fair, Jack, your food example is a great example, but you can actually go more basic than that. Astronauts eat packets of powder with hot water in because we've solved nutrition largely. You can exist on, you know,
the
supplements.
Constituent parts that give you all of the micro.
But they would still rather eat a sausage roll or have, you know, boil some potatoes.
Are you saying that sausage rolls? Are you saying sausage rolls are the pinnacle of nutrition? Are you?
Well, I'm saying is even a Greggs sausage roll is artisan compared to a packet full of dried nutrients and minerals, isn't it? So, you know, the fact that we eat food at all is like, well, there's obviously more to it than just wanting to be that bland, autonomous.
Yeah, and I'm sure technology may even be at the point now where you can plug it into a computer and it will tell you this is like the exact mix of, or it could develop a blend of.
The Colonel's recipe.
Yeah.
It's not, but this actually leads us on to the next thing, and I wasn't doing that on purpose, but it did make me think. And you know, there's a guy who mentioned this ages ago. He talks about, you know, Gordon Ramsay writes recipe books. So does every man and dog in the land seems to write a recipe book these days, or has a fitness class or something.
Yeah.
You know, we all know how to make lasagna now. If you don't, you can find out really easily, and you can watch 1,000 people make it in the exact way that you want it. The reality is, though, some people still don't want to do it themselves. They're happy for someone else to have done it. Gordon Ramsay will tell you exactly how he makes his, you know, whatever he makes. But he's still got a restaurant where you can just go and buy the damn thing as well. Because not everyone wants to make it. Not everyone will want to use ChatGPT to answer a question. They would rather pay someone, because they still see a value in doing that, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. No,
that's not necessarily the same argument as the counter revolution. They're not making a conscious decision away. They just don't want to do it. To some degree.
Is this the time that we announce kind of our recipe book that we're launching?
Yeah, it's the accelerator book. It's the fastest way to 30 stone.
Greggs sausage rolls feature heavily in it.
Yeah. Instead of breadcrumbs, we use sausage roll crumbs.
But
yeah, so you know, I mean, I genuinely think, because I've thought about this for, you know, I've been doing tax returns in some degree for 30 years. I can remember how long it used to take to do all of those basic things. Your post would come in once a day. You did get calls, but it wasn't all day. You didn't have email, really. You kind of did, but everyone...
You had one computer.
Yeah, like everyone didn't use... Well, yeah, I mean, I can literally remember when I first started Robson Laidler, there was a computer in... The accounts team shared a computer, and it was just for coding up the accounts. And I think tax, even back then, had 2, if not 3 computers, and that was it in the office. It was like three maybe 4 computers in the office, you know. So then you go, well, we've all got computers now. Surely we can all work one day a week. But that's not what happens. You get those incremental advances, you do something else in the time you've saved, and you polish the service, you give a better service, you do more. And yes, you've taken away someone's job. The person who used to sit and put everything in an envelope, they don't do that anymore, but they now do other things instead. And I'm sure that's what we're going to see here. I don't think we're just going to, I don't know, some of that 50 trillion or 15 trillion, whatever the number is, that will be individual jobs that will never need to be done again. There will be an element of that. But I think on the whole, there aren't that many people who just do one thing that cannot adapt. I think they will adapt.
And it's, as I said, it's that mindset of it. Like this all came from like a keynote that I saw last week, who was Matthew Griffin, the futurist, and it is still very much a mindset, because he used like agriculture as an example. It's like you can either be the out of work farmhand, or you can be the CEO of John Deere, and that's all about the mindset that you adopt. You either embrace the changes and the opportunities that are brought by.
So what's these newfangled tractors? Or, well, I can make tractors.
Or awesome. How do we use this technology to you know, to make me better, to make this?
But it's interesting as well, though, because we've talked in previous episodes quite a lot about what drives people and motivates people, and I'm a massive believer in the need for purpose in life. So I don't think if we'd said jobs are static, there'll never be a need for another job, no new jobs will be created that have never been done, we'll never want more than we've got. At some point it would all be automated and it would be done without us doing it. But we won't just sit around and do nothing. We will want to do something else. And because at our hearts we like the idea of recognition, or selling our time, selling our service, we're always going to come up with something else that will fill that void, aren't we? Because we can't, as a society, we're not comfortable sitting doing nothing.
No, we will do something, and
because you have to have a purpose, don't you?
Yes, and I think a lot of it, suddenly the embracing the automation side of things, and then all of the hard work's done, but then there's still that value-added service at the end of everything, the interpretation, the insights. All of that stuff suddenly becomes more valuable. I mean, accountancy, for example, like we've talked about how far that's gone since you've started, and even since I've started in the past 10 years. How like it will get to a point where the bookkeeping process will become automated.
Xero told us this at XeroCon. So Xero is accounting software. If you didn't know, most people have heard of Xero, QuickBooks, those Sage, those types of things. Xero were very open at saying that bookkeeping and data entry was something like 95% likely to disappear as jobs. And they do that because their machine learning is very good at predicting, just from the bank statement data alone, where you're going to code that in their accounts. So when they guess, they're normally right. They're right 98%, I think it was their stat. So, and they were very open about that. But what they said is, start making tractors. They didn't say just keep trying to farm, to use your phone analogy. They were like, do something else.
They didn't say they didn't
different service.
They didn't speak to a room full of bookkeepers and accountants and just went, you guys are screwed.
See you later.
We're taking over. Because that's where the insights come in. Like the Xero will get to a point where it will automate the entire bookkeeping process, but it won't be able to then sit down with the client and go,
what does it mean?
Your debtor days are gone up by 25%.
Again, time that will come. There's already products now. So there's a subset within a subset. There's a lot of accountants who still have never used an online cloud package. Within those who have, there are some that have never then attached to things like Fluidly, Futurely, Wave, not Wave. Was it Wave? Float. I think it was water-based.
Water-based.
Those types of things. And then there are those who have. And then there's a subset again of, there's...
They're on different...
All we're doing is we're just moving down these things slowly.
If we're looking at the innovation side or innovation curve, like these are all on different stages of that innovation. Like some of them at the early adopters, some of them are kind of, at the point where they're, largely being accepted and adopted.
But within 3 generations, there will be no accountants who don't use cloud software. Certainly not in the UK. Because no one new coming in goes to the old way of doing it. So these things will always take time. No matter how good the tech is, there will always be a late adopter.
Yeah.
And a whole massive, the middle, whatever the middle adopter is, they're not going to use it yet. And as much as I've told my mother about ChatGPT, I can't imagine she'll ever sit and type anything into it.
Yeah.
She just thinks it's like black magic. She's like, well, what is this, mysterious thing you're talking about?
Yeah.
She's impressed by what it can do, but she just doesn't want to go in and query it. So again, there'll always be that range of people who are on the cutting edge and the range of people who are just not going to do it. And there'll always be something for everyone to do in that spectrum line.
Definitely, yeah. Makes sense. Didn't you have a couple more examples or not?
Well, I was saying to you beforehand, did I say today, Google's been around forever, but yet people still don't do it. We've talked about the counter revolution. Say, well, I could make bread en masse now really easy, but I'm not going to. I want to make ugly loaves and sell them to Jack.
£20 sourdough, yeah.
Yeah, my other one is kind of a bit like your bread kind of covers it, to be fair, Jack. It's woodwork. Before we had, metal, so before the Iron Age, we had flints to try and carve wood to make spear handles and axe handles. And you look at what you can get now, I saw something yesterday, I think the circular saws have been around for less than 100 years, which is what you'd expect. But there are still people who can take a sheet of wood and chop it with an axe and shave it and plane it by hand. They still do that. And it's not that they don't know the other thing exists. So I suppose what my point there is, if the circular saw is ChatGPT, we've probably got 100 years before that all of those jobs go. But there will be some who go, I'm going to get one of those saws because I want to cut more wood more quickly.
And I think you said to me, it doesn't mean that if I go out and buy a circular saw, doesn't mean I can go out and build a house.
Doesn't mean you know what you're doing with it. And so we arrived yesterday in our little family discussion, little Father's Day discussion we had. We arrived at the point that the skill will almost be like what you said about authors. It will be in assessing the output or getting really good at really prescriptive input. Because if you say to ChatGPT, write me a story, well, that's not going to get as good a result as write me a horror story for teenagers based on the Isle of Man. Well, all of a sudden the context is much better if you want a horror story.
Yeah.
And then there'll be people who are that better again, and they'll go, actually give me a really interesting twist for a book. And then they'll go away and they'll give 50 prompts to get the chapters for each of the things that lead to it.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's the same. You can have all the gear but no idea. It's a good golfing thing. You got really smart golfing gear, but you can't hit the ball. ChatGPT's the same. If you don't know what you're asking,
yeah, you don't know what you're going to get.
You're not going to get any closer at all, are you?
I suppose the last point I wanted to make was that, as I said, AI is one very specific area of change and development which could affect it, but that's one of many.
There's innovation across multiple areas.
But then let's not forget the cultural things that are happening. Like another stat that was shared at this keynote is that 51% of millennials think that capitalism fundamentally doesn't work.
Yeah.
So there's, going back to this whole purpose idea, is that there are so many other things to worry about other than what AI is going to do. Your business needs to be future-proofed in so many different ways, not just technologically, but also culturally, and so that you're actually, is my business model fit for my future customers?
Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, as a capitalist, I would say it's evil capitalists that are the problem. Socially,
so
conscious capitalists.
There's a whole
new force for good, and there's a whole debate to be had there. And the answer's in the middle somewhere, I'm sure. But
there's the whole concept of now ethical capitalism, which is this more purpose-based idea of capitalism, and that seems to be scoring well with the younger generations, because there's stats and evidence out there around people buying from businesses that are more purpose-driven or providing good for their local community.
Money, but do it properly.
Yeah.
Don't be a shit. Yeah.
But then there are customers out there who don't like you making money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the other thing. You might not have to worry about going out of business because of AI. The communists will just take it off you. Don't worry. What's going to happen first?
Oh, are you becoming a futurist now, are you?
No, I'm kind of joking, but yeah, you're right. If you sit at night worrying about ChatGPT taking everything off you, you'll miss the other things that are also vying to take your living away.
Yeah, I mean,
the good thing about AI, sorry Jack, is you can just jump on and give it a go.
At the moment, yeah.
Which is, you really should be on there, seeing what it can do. Because if you're not, I would liken that to, and this isn't my original thought, but Gary Vaynerchuk said, you know, if 30 years ago you weren't playing on the internet, you would have missed a generational gap there. I think ChatGPT and OpenAI, those types of things are now that generational shift. If you're not trying it, you're going to really struggle to catch up and find.
Yeah, you've got to use it like as a tool for good for you. Like, how can I shave some time off what I do at the moment? Because it's there. It's a really effective tool.
Yeah.
That you're absolutely mad not to be using it.
And I'm sure everyone's sick of the LinkedIn posts. You know, the 94 essential AI apps. Who's got time for 94 AI apps?
Yeah.
But yeah, play with it. See what you get. If you're an artist, try the picture generation ones. If you're a programmer, get it to write an app for you and see what it can at least do. Because I think if you're not aware, then you will get left behind.
Definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know what's the one thing. We normally finish with one thing.
I suppose the one thing is that don't be scared of AI.
Yeah.
Don't ignore the sensationalist narrative that it's going to kill you and steal your job. Focus on your mindset on how it can be used as an opportunity for you. And as I said, there's ways of ensuring that you're able to upskill people quicker.
Benefit, yeah. Why not aim to be one of the people who has a 30% productivity jump as a result of the AI? Why not be on the front of it?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. As always, Jack, it's always a pleasure. Thank you very much. What I should say is we aren't really here. This was all generated by
an app.
I wish we had that tech.
There is some out there.
I would have better hair if that was the case. I wouldn't have instructed this from it.
And we would have 6 packs.
Yeah, well, I have. Sorry. When you say we, it would not just me. Is that what you mean? So, as always, thanks very much. We'd love to hear your thoughts on whether AI is a risk or an opportunity. Or is it both? Probably, yeah, it almost certainly is from the discussion we've just had. But certainly don't just sit and panic about the threat. Take advantage of the opportunity as well.
Definitely.
Thank you very much, everyone. Until next week.